Hello everyone. As you know that our vision is to provide a chance to every international masters from all over the world to highlight him and especially to discuss about the lineage, about the karate, about the many other things which people are not aware from real karate or traditional karate. So we have already invited many international masters, especially from Okinawa in Japan. So now today our guest is a very special for us. Uh, uh, is Hanshi Anthony Marquez. He is a headmaster of traditional martial art, traditional TMAI Okinawan, Tanzenbukan Goju Ryu Karate, and Kokusai Ryukyu Kobujutsu, and Kenkyukai. He lived in Japan 4 years in 1971 to 75, and Okinawa 1977 to 1985. His teacher is Shinjo Masanobu Sensei, Shobukan Goju, Masanobu Kina, Rengokai Kobudo, Kaishu Isa, Ufuchiku Kobudo, and Katsuyoshi Kanei, Jinbukan Kobudo. So here, our guest is here. Hello, Sensei. How are you?
I am fine. Thank you for the invitation to share a small piece of my life with your viewers. I'm very proud to be here. Thank you.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Sensei, as you know that this live conference is about the karate and the martial art, the kobudo, and many other information uh, beside modern karate. So first of all, I would like to uh, again thank and welcome to you in my live conference.
Thank you for having me.
Sensei, can you tell me about yourself? Uh, what is your full name? Where do you live? And when was you karate started karate?
Thank you for the question. I'll try to keep it short because I've been training. Next year will be 50 years, so I don't think the broadcast will be long enough for me to tell you everything about me. But basically, my name is Anthony C. Marquez Sr. I joined the military, the Air Force, in 1971, and I was blessed with my first assignment being to Japan. That's where I lived for 4 years as a military member, Air Force. And my first exposure to martial arts was at Yokota Air Force Base, in which I found a style called Yoshukai Karate uh, under the headmaster Mamuya Yamamoto. So my first 4 years of introduction to martial arts was really a form of martial arts, as most people who know Yoshikai Karate, is a full contact. It's like Kyokushinkai. After I trained for 4 years there, I met many martial artists and got a wide experience of seeing other teachers and other styles on the base and off base. I was in the heavy competition, full contact competition in the early days, which is a lot different than sport karate is today. Then eventually I gravitated in my next assignment, and I was very fortunate. I've been stationed in Okinawa, Japan, at Dana Air Force Base, and that's where my true adventure with martial arts began. I was most fortunate to have been exposed to a lot of great teachers, both karate and kobudo. Eventually, I settled down to a style called Shobukan Goju under the leadership of Masanobu Shinjo, who has passed. I studied with Master Shinjo in his dojo next to the Air Force Base, Havana. And then he was most gracious to introduce me to a gentleman called Katsuyoshi Kanei, the headmaster of Jinbukan Kobudo. And that's where I settled. Although I had some time to study originally with Masanobu Kina, from the Sosei Kina family, Rengokai. Unfortunately, people pass, and my teachers all passed on for various reasons. And then my last exposure to Okinawan Kobudo was Kaishu Isa, Soka Isa, the headmaster of Ufuchiku Kobujutsu. And so I studied with Sensei Isa, his form of Kobudo. So in reality, when I settled down in America and I started my dojo in 1985 and started my organization in 1987, Traditional Martial Arts International, I had a choice to make because I was exposed to so many great teachers. Only one in karate, Shobukan Goju, but in Kobudo, I had a lot of influences. A lot of teachers gave me techniques and kata and philosophy, and I couldn't pick one over the other. So when I started TMAI, I decided to combine or to bring together all the families that I had studied with. Kanei Sensei, Kina Sensei, Ufuchiku Sensei, and then at the very end, while I was here, I studied Iaido with Matsuyoshi Shimabukuro, and he passed on also, unfortunately. So I combined and brought under one flag, TMAI, all the teachings, all the kata, all the bunkai, all the kihon in Kobudo of those four teachings. So my organization, Traditional Martial Arts International, is comprised of one form of Goju and then four styles of weapons, one Iaido and three Kobudo. I've expanded my organization internationally. Most of our schools are in Chile, Peru, Venezuela, Costa Rica, Puerto Rico, Germany. Soon in India, we have two representatives in India who start their weapons training with me. And we have thousands of students all over the world now studying what I studied as a young man in Okinawa. So saying that one person can make a difference, that is true. Because of my teachers, and their greatness and their benevolence and sharing with me, I now influence thousands of people worldwide. My name is Anthony C. Marquez. I'm a husband of one, a father of three, and a grandfather of 8, and a great-grandfather of 3. I am
Great.
71 years old.
It's a big family.
It's a big family.
That's great. That's really great. Sensei, how many systems of karate and other styles you know, and what karate specific you practice or teach?
Well, as I indicated, I studied at one time Yoshokai Karate. That was my original style. Yoshokai was formed by Mamoru Yamamoto, who created this style with the Oyama mentality, full contact. And so my first 4 years were pretty rough, and I was young. So I loved the full contact fighting. I admire people who go into Jinkai and other styles where they go full out. So I admire them because I did that for 4 years. But eventually, I my history would take me to Okinawa, where I was exposed to what many people say is the home of traditional karate do. Okinawa has, in my opinion, and I've been around, I know a lot of people, I don't take anything away from anybody else, but Okinawa still has the roots of traditional orthodox karate do. Shorin-ryu, Uechi-ryu, Goju-ryu, Kempo, they have many styles. And I lived in Okinawa for 8 years, and I got a good view, a good understanding of the styles in Okinawa, and I was blessed to have met a gentleman who was considered at that time the best Goju practitioner in Okinawa. They call him the Okinawan Bull, Masanobu Kina, great man, great karate. Unfortunately, Sensei passed on, God bless him. So my karate, my style of Tanzenbukan, the katas and the training regimen and the mentality of Kihon Waza, kata, bunkai. I give credit to Masanobu Shinjo from the Shobukan.
Okay. Many people not understand and know doesn't know about traditional aspects in traditional karate, and they're just playing games and earn point scoring and getting piece of papers and shields. So, what you think about what you tell us about the difference between the traditional karate and modern karate? As we know that the modern karate is toward as known as well in sports karate as well. So what is the difference between the traditional and modern karate?
Well, that question has been asked of many people. Either traditional old timers like me, I'm 71, or young guys who are brought up under a new era, sport karate, and know very little, if anything, about traditional karate. My opinion is that evolution, like the species, spawn and change through time. So I don't look at sport karate as an enemy. I don't look at sport karate as a deterrent. I don't look at sport karate as taking away from traditional karate. I'm a traditionalist, orthodox, but I have sport karate in my dojo because I understand the human condition. Children need an outlet to perform and to excel in the sport arena. Born sport karate. So I admire teachers who devote their time to teaching the kids how to develop their selves, their physical abilities through sport karate. But there is a limit to sport karate. If you look at sport karate and you try to find me people that are seniors that are in sport karate only, you'll seldom find them. Sport karate, like football, soccer, basketball, have a shelf life. They're only good for a certain amount of time. After that, there is no 70-year-old basketball player professional. It stops. So traditional karate is for life. I'm 71. I went through sport karate full contact in Japan. It helped me develop my attitude, my spirit. I loved it. But then I transitioned as an older gentleman into traditional karate. I'm 71. I still train a minimum of 2 to 3 hours every day, Monday through Sunday. And I teach just about every day. That is traditional karate, conditioning my body and my mind to withstand at 71, training every day. Sport karate is a period of time in the life of an athlete, and that's great. I applaud them, I support them. But once you get past that, medals, certificates, accolades, world titles mean nothing to you because you're too old to do it anymore. You must have something else to sustain you in your later years, as I have exhibited to my students. I have over 400 black belts worldwide. I'm still the strongest of the 400 because I train every day. Sport karate has its place. Traditional karate is for life. That's the difference. That's the difference.
That's very great. It's mean if a person is a teacher have command on traditional karate and they also teach sports karate, they will be make more good student rather than a person who doesn't know about traditional karate. They just know about and they practice only sports karate. It's mean you have a weapon without your hand. You have weapon, but you have no hand. So that's great. So what do you think about the karate future?
Well, karate future, if you don't have a balance, you just mentioned, a teacher who teaches sport karate and traditional karate. Those go hand in hand. But the most important tenets, elements, qualities, intricacies of the most beneficial part of karate comes from traditional karate. Sports karate has other benefits, which are also important for the growth and maturity of children. But the greatest benefit, lifelong benefit, things that will change the cognitive, not only the physical, obviously, but the emotional, the social, how to interact, the discipline, focus, the attention to detail, the concentration, all those intricacies that people say karate, martial arts, is good for us, to me only come long term through traditional training. That being said, the challenge with traditional training, that is, people that study traditional, if you don't understand human behavior, psychology, you then teach a karate that was taught to you in Okinawa. I was taught in Okinawa for 8 years, Japan for 4. That form of training oftentimes becomes too mundane, too boring for the generations of people that are born today. Today we have a very fast-paced society. We have a pace where children now are very smart intellectually, and we're computers at an early age. So unless you engage through traditional training, the mind of the child, you lose it. And you see that in the dojo. You walk into a traditional dojo, you don't see hundreds of people. You go into a sport karate dojo, you see hundreds of people. The open karate is much more popular than the traditional karate because of the mindset of the teacher and how he interacts and attracts the mind of the student. So traditional karate must spawn keeping the most important elements of traditional karate, but spawn into a new form of karate that engages the young people of now, not the young people of 30 years ago when I was training, but the minds of the children now who are very fast paced and want to be entertained, want to be engaged, and want to have fun. Without that, traditional karate will continue to decline. You go into traditional dojos, 20, 30 people. You go into sports dojos, 30, 50, 70, 100 people. Traditional teachers have to learn the new way of engaging the new students that are facing us in our society.
That's great. That's great. Very well said. Sase, I saw many people. I saw many people in my country as well, and many other countries as well. They mix up to sports karate and traditional karate. They said traditional karate is no more in the world. They have no importance right now. Nowadays, every one do and practice sports karate because of Olympic, because of sports recreational activities. So, is it right? A pupil who learn traditional karate, and you know very well, you are the most senior person in the traditional karate from Okinawa. Traditional karate is a real karate, and every sports and traditional karate comes from traditional karate. If traditional karate is dead, there is no karate will be live. So, what do you think about? It's the same thing. Why people say and mix up on the same mix up on the same importance? As you said, there is a different traditional karate have own importance and traditional sports karate have own importance. So why mix up? What's the reason of mix up? People, why do this? This is a very, very bad act against the karate, I think.
Well, uh, a good analogy about sport karate and traditional karate Traditional karate is a wheel. Let's look at an analogy of a wheel, a bicycle wheel. What supports the wheel? The spokes, the attachments from the center to the outer. That's a spoke in a wheel. Traditional karate should be viewed as a spoke, as a piece of traditional karate, but not the wheel. Traditional karate, those who say that mostly have never been to Okinawa. If you go to Okinawa and let's say take a month out of your life and go into a Shorin dojo, Uechi dojo, Goju dojo, and learn the components, the tenets of traditional karate do, they would then come back with a different perspective. So this is human behavior. When you are ignorant, when you have no knowledge, you have no basis to make an analogy, to make a statement that traditional karate is dead, that to me is just simply ignorance, not stupidity. There's a difference between being ignorant and being stupid. Ignorant is lack of information to base and to have an analysis. Stupidity is having the knowledge and not using it for the analysis. So most people who say traditional karate is dead live in other countries, have never left their country, and only know what one teacher has told them. Karate is dead, traditional, not only sport, Olympic. That's ignorance because they don't have the wisdom to make an analogy, to make a evaluation of the situation. I don't do that because I have the wisdom of traveling all over the world. I have the wisdom and experience of being in sport, full contact, 1971 to 1975. But then I have the other 47 years of traditional karate and the benefit and teaching sport karate. They can go hand in hand as long as people understand that sport karate is the baby. Traditional karate is the parent. And if you do it right, you can do both. The problem is, the challenge is, most people can't do it right. Sport karate is easier than traditional karate. It is valued, but sport karate is easier to teach than traditional karate do. There's a big difference. People who don't know
Exactly.
the difference have never been exposed to both. They've only been exposed. So the new generation, even senseis coming up, all they know is sport karate because their teacher was sport karate. So the evolution of sport karate has drowned out the importance of traditional karate, mainly because of ignorance and because sport karate is a lot easier to teach than traditional tennis. Things that are foundational, things that'll last forever. I'm 71. I still have the values of traditional karate, but I still like to watch MMA. I still like to watch WKF, but I know where that belongs. It does not supersede, it does not cover traditional karate. No way. Traditional karate is here forever.
That's great indeed. Traditional karate live ever. Because traditional karate is the father of sports karate son. Anyways, sensei, many people are talking about the traditional. When we talk about traditional karate, they think we talk about Kyokushin karate. So, if in my opinion, traditional karate and Kyokushin karate is, I think Kyokushin karate is follow the rules, not follow the fundamentals of karate basics. Traditional karate is different thing, and Kyokushin fighting believe in rules like WKF. We follow rules, sports rules. So why people think like when we talk about traditional karate, they think, oh, you're talking about Kyokushin karate. What traditional karate link with quite linked with Kyokushin karate. In my opinion, I just share with you because you are more senior as me. Traditional karate is about the life, is a way of life. But when we go into the fighting ring, and uh, and we follow rules. So there's a lot of rules, like sports rules, in full contact rules. Full contact have many visions, like when we watch many videos of Kyokushin karate fight, they just punch on the chest level and using down circle and somehow kick on the drop on the head, uh, X kick, and many other kicks on the head area, upper Jodan area. Okay, that's great. But karate is not depend on the punch on the chest level, on the down circle only. It's about the life. So we have many things to do. We have many things, all things to learn from the betterment of the human body. Traditional karate is different. It's not about full contact or traditional is same thing. What do you say about this?
Well, let's use the word traditional. The word traditional is used by a lot of people. Traditional Kempo, traditional Kyokushinkai, traditional Wushu, traditional Gung Fu, traditional Goju. So the word traditional is conditional to who's saying it. If you're only brought up under the banner of Kyokushinkai and you've done it for 40 years, this person would say, I studied traditional Kyokushinkai, Masoyama, original. The new Kyokushinkai is not traditional. That's what some people would say in the Kyokushinkai world. I would say traditional Goju. What does the word traditional mean? Everything is traditional if you wait long enough. 100 years from now, something that was made up in your country or in another country, somebody comes up with another style. You know, styles now are everywhere. Anybody can say, I'm going to develop a style. I'm the headmaster. And people would laugh at that individual and say, you're crazy. 100 years from now, if that style is still alive, what will people say? That is traditional. So tradition, that word traditional, is conditional to the person who's saying it. There are differences in martial arts, absolutely. And it's not restricted to only our world, traditional karate do, but the people who study wushu or study gung fu would have the same argument. Taekwondo people would have the same argument. What is traditional? Taekwondo, Jeet uh, Boksudo. Everybody
Thanks
has
to,
an argument. What
thanks
is
to
traditional? But do not confuse one apple from the orange. What we're speaking about, and what I believe in, and what I believe you believe in, and thousands of people like us, is that the roots, the foundation that gave birth to everything else in Karate Do is Okinawan Karate. Now, some people will tell you, well, scrape the top of Okinawan Karate, and what do you find? Chinese. The books indicate that our masters studied from the Chinese, Goju in particular. Fu Chao China is famous for white brain. Goju Uechi has its foundation in China. So are we traditional Okinawan karate or are we traditional Chinese practitioners with a different name? What's important to me, Sensei, and I tell this to all my students when I give lectures, it doesn't matter what you call yourself. It doesn't matter. What matters is your heart, your mind, and your soul, and your benevolence to the past and teaching it to the future. You want to call yourself traditional, orthodox, Doesn't matter to me. If you study Okinawan karate, you have certain components in your teachings and in your application. And if you don't, you don't. And you can call yourself traditional. And in my view, based on the word traditional, old, original, you're not. But you use the term because now it's very popular for everyone to say traditional, or the other word is original. I studied the original Goju. I studied the original Shodan. I studied the original. No, you don't. The original died when the headmaster died. All you do now is live and teach a variation of the original. Nobody teaches the original of anything. We all teach the interpretation of the original. I studied with Masanobu Shinjo. I was a direct student, first generation. Katsuyoshi Kanei, first generation. Kina Sensei, first generation. Isa Sensei, first generation. So I studied with 4 headmasters as a first generation. Can I say I teach the original of each of those families? I would say no. I teach my variation of the original. But the original died before great masters died. My first generation can say that the original of Tanzenbukan, Kokusai, Ryukyu, Kobujutsu, Kenkyukai, but they cannot say that they studied the original for my teacher. That was me, only me.
Very great, very great. Sensei, tell us your teacher best quote, best says to you, which is meaningful for your life.
Well, just about all my teachers, except for one. All my teachers were Japanese Okinawan. I spoke very little, like most foreigners. I got enough to understand, and I made a decision early in my career. I'm either going to speak Okinawan or Japanese thoroughly, or I'm going to do karate thoroughly. I decided on training. So my teachers gave me many tidbits of information, many small discussions in private of how to develop into a great teacher. But I have one teacher who was non-Oriental, Thomas Cully, a great teacher. And all Sensei Cully taught me was, be a respectful man. These are the tenets of traditional karate that you may not get in sport karate. It's to be a great human being. Respect, love, benevolence, mentoring, follow rules and regulations. Don't hurt anybody. Don't cheat anybody. Don't steal from anybody. These are the tenets, in my opinion, that make traditional karate so great. Because you live by a code of conduct. A lot of people like to use the term Bushido. I live by Bushido. I live like a samurai. To me, those are foolish concepts. You don't live like a samurai because you don't live in those terms. You don't live in that era. But you live by a code of conduct like Bushido, if you understand Bushido. You live by a code of conduct that is universal. I can go to Pakistan and find someone like me, maybe not physically or maybe yet, but mindset, emotional. I can go to any country and they're great teachers. So it's not a Okinawan value, it's a universal value. It's a heart that loves universally. So I study a philosophy. My teachers gave me the best they had in their own way. But I discovered universal principles that adhere to the same principles all over the world, not just in California, not just in Pakistan, not just in India or Venezuela, not just in Germany, universal. So traditional karate is that form of karate that will mesh, will join, and become a matrix in any country. But you have to have traditional teaching. You have to have traditional values in order to do that. So the greatest statement, piece of advice I received came out of a book. And it says, whatever the mind can conceive and believe, the mind can achieve. I'll say it again. Whatever the mind can conceive, give birth, and believe, faith, the mind can achieve. That came out of a small paperback book that I read as a young man called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And that statement, plus the things I've studied, is why I'm sitting here in front of you. Why someone who's not Japanese or Okinawan has a world organization. Why someone who doesn't have a college degree manages an international organization. Because I studied early in my life that if I think that way, so shall it be. And in my holy book, the Bible, it says the same thing. Think, and so it shall be. So you must believe in yourself and the human condition in order to progress and to produce a great life. If the mind can conceive and believe, the mind can achieve. I give that to all your listeners.
Yes, well said. Very well said, Sensei. What is the difference and connection? Not difference. What is the relation between karate and kobudo?
Well, I guess, again, I was blessed. I studied Yoshikai Karate, as I indicated, 71 through 75 in Japan, Shobukan. And in Yoshikai, Sensei Yamamoto was developing weapons and weapons patterns. The Yoshikai is a full contact, just like Kyokushinkai, no weapon. Like many styles, Shotokan, no weapon, original. But my teacher, Fujikawa Sensei, used to do the bow. And so early in my career, thank God, I studied karate, and then within a couple of years, my sensei put a bow in my hand and started teaching me Kobujutsu. I don't remember much. This is a long time ago. But I do remember I enjoyed it. I liked it. And as my history would tell, when I got to Okinawa, that is the island of Kobudo. That is the treasure of Kobudo. Lives in Okinawa. Incredible Kobudo. And I was
Exactly.
fortunate to study Rengokai, Masanobu Kina, Jinbukan, Katsuyoshi Kanei, and Ufuchiku, the oldest, I think one of the oldest forms, and Lising, Ufuchiku Kobujutsu, Kaishu Isa. I was most fortunate to have fallen into the hands of three of the most gifted martial artists. Kanai Sensei was one of the right hands of Matayoshi Sensei. So when I say Jinbukan, the katas stem from Matayoshi. So the relationship, when people say, well, I studied Shotokan and we don't do weapons, or I studied this and we don't believe in weapons, empty hands. That is a fallacy. Now, you do whatever you want to do. But the students that study with me, I have Shotokan, who study weapons, Shitoru, that study weapons, Goju from other families that study weapons, Taekwondo. I have many people who come to me for Kobudo. And once they study Kobudo, they tell me the same thing. My karate is better because I studied Kobudo. My wrists are stronger. My forearms are stronger. My back, my legs, stronger than when I started karate only. There is no doubt that Kobudo and karate, sister and brother, and they were raised at the same time. There are very few Kobudokas that don't study karate. There are very few styles that only do Kobudo and nothing else. Most of their teachers study Goju and Kobudo, Shitoru and Kobudo, Uechiru and Kobudo. They're not mixed. Uechiru has no Kobudo, Goju has no Kobudo, Shotokan has no Kobudo, but they are now studying Kobudo because the realization from two aspects. One, business. I have a dojo in California. I teach Goju, Kobudo, Iaido, sport karate. I have more clients, more students than someone who only studies one thing and teaches them. So from the business aspect, now we understand the more you have to teach, the more people will come to you. From a traditional aspect, do not mix them. Shorin-ryu was born with both. Most of the Shorin-ryu people I know, their Shorin-ryu and their Kobudo are mixed. Now, people have separated it, like myself. I teach Kobudo to anybody. I have an eighth dan in Kobudo and I have an eighth dan in Goju. They're separate. The jacket you see me wear right now is Kobudo. I also wear white for karate. They're separated. So my organization is built of many Kobudo that do not study Goju with me. And most of my Goju study Kobudo. So both together is a beautiful combination of mind, body, spirit training. And you can only get certain body types and benefits from Kobudo that you cannot get from karate. So I encourage karate people to seek out, to look for traditional Okinawan Kobudo. Like karate, there are certain aspects that only live on Okinawa, that are only taught to Okinawan students like myself. I encourage Kobudo and karate.
That's great. It's a fruitful combination of real martial art. That's great.
Absolutely. Yes.
Sensei, as we know that Goju-ryu, as you know very well, Goju-ryu was created by Chojin Miyagi Sensei.
Right.
So he have two teachers, as I know. Chojin Miyagi have two teachers. Both learn from China. The Chinese martial art. So what's the name? It's white crane kung fu or other thing. What style behind the Goju-ryu more exist?
Well, I had the opportunity of studying feeding crane. Feeding crane is one of the four legs of white crane. White crane, historically and documented by many people, is given credit for giving many of the tenets and the roots of Goju-ryu, Uechi-ryu, maybe even Shorin-ryu. I'm not too familiar with the Shorin-ryu, but I know that the writings in Uechi-ryu and Goju-ryu give credit and have manuscripts. I have one of the most intense book on Uechi-ryu. I was given the Uechi-ryu manual as a gift from Uechi Sensei. And in that book, White Crane is credited. Goju-ryu credits White Crane. So I happened to stumble upon a teacher, Liu Changyi from Taiwan, who is the current headmaster of feeding crane, which is one of the four legs of white crane. And I went to Taiwan to study feeding crane from Master Liu. I was 60 years old. And I wanted to trace back, I wanted to find out how influential was white crane to Goju-ryu. I happened to meet a headmaster of one of the cranes. I went to Taiwan, and during my 10-day stay with him, He exposed me not only to the techniques of the feeding crane, which I now teach to many people, but also showed me documentation where Chojin Miyagi and Higaonna before him, his teacher, went to Fuchao, the birth of the white crane, and they studied as Shinjo Sensei also went to China, to Fuchao, to discover the white crane. How intensive it was, I don't know. But he had pictures on his wall of him in China. And what I learned from Master Lu Changyi, or Sifu, while he was teaching me the feeding crane upper body training, which is intensive. And we sat down to discuss my Goju and his feeding crane. And he showed me techniques. And he said, here's where your Neko Ashidachi comes from. Here's where your Take comes from. Saifa, Suparimpe. Most of the Okinawan Goju names come from China. So the roots are intertwined. The challenge and the problem is, through time, you lose that connection. People stop talking about, since we're talking about traditional, what was done in the 1900s in Okinawa, 99% is not done today in 2020. Most of the understanding, the concept, are not the same as when Chojin Miyagi was alive, or Higaonna Sensei was alive, his teacher, or Uechi, the original, the father. All those things through time, unfortunately, if not recorded and not pressured, not treasured, are lost. And what you have are segments of those old teachings. So white crane, to me, if you look at it historically, is the foundation of Goju-ryu. Miyagi Sensei studied in Fuchao. He was influenced by the Chinese, as I am influenced by the Okinawans, and I move on. The white crane, to me, studying the concept of white crane, shaking power, rolling thunder, all those things that the Chinese have that the Okinawans have lost. Some still have it, but most, you don't see it anymore. That when you do a technique, that a term that has recently surfaced, Chinkuchi. Chinkuchi now is a term that's being voiced and said by many people. Most have no idea on how to do it, how to perform a Chinkuchi-like movement. You can read it, you can understand it intellectually, but if you don't physically do it, you really don't understand the term Chinkuchi and all the other terms that are associated with that. That's old. Tuite, ote. All those terms are in the history books, but 99% of the people have no idea on how to execute those movements. They're with the new form of traditional karate. They're with the new understanding of traditional karate. The old is dying. The old is dying. The new traditional things that they're the old tradition, and they're not. They will be 100 years from now, but not today.
That's great. Sensei, so the moral of the story is those who are belongs to directly from the Okinawa, those who are learned from direct from Okinawa, they all are very lucky because they directly communicate with the forefathers or the motherland of karate.
That is correct.
So you are the University of Traditional Karate and Kobudo.
Let me give
I'm
you,
on.
excuse me
Sorry.
for interrupting you. Let me give you one small example of people seeking. I just had a conversation about a month ago with a senior individual, seventh dan. in another form of Goju. And he called me and he said he wants to come closer to the original roots of Goju, Okinawa. He studies another form of Goju. I accepted him as a student because what he's seeking is the father or the mother. He's seeking the original Goju Saifa, Superimpe, get the things that I take for granted. He is lacking and he's looking for it. I support that, I facilitate that, and I will teach my traditional Goju and Kobudo to anyone who has a sincere attitude of, I want to go back to the original. I support that.
That's very great. Sensei, one more question. How you feel about this live conference on YouTube for the martial art, for the masters? Is it productive or not?
Well, this is my first one. You're my first one. I have another one scheduled for Brazil, talking about people with disabilities and martial art. I happen to be one of the world leading authorization authorities on how to teach people with disabilities martial art. Karate, Kobudo, Iaido, I've done it. But let me tell you my discovery. Because of the medical condition, the COVID-19 that we're all suffering through, I would have had to sit in my dojo for the last 4 months and do nothing but train, which I had. But one of my students told me, Hanshi, there's something called Zoom. I said, what is Zoom? He said, Zoom is something you can teach someone in Germany from your dojo. I said, no way. He says, yes. So what you're doing right now, I support full-heartedly. For example, no one in Pakistan or anywhere else this is broadcast will ever know me, will never hear these words. But because of you and your innovation and your vision to create a broadcast. Zoom, now I teach Zoom classes internationally. I have 2 students that just joined me from India who will study Okinawan Karate and Kobudo from California via Okinawa in India because of this media. I have people in New York City, all my South America divisions, all study Zoom. So without this new technology, people in regions that will never see it, never feel it, never experience it, never hear it, never live through it, will not have a benefit. So I am in complete support of what you're doing and teachers that are now teaching internationally. It's not the same as you sitting in front of me, but it's a good replacement. So is this going to be traditional someday? Ah, talking about tradition. Am I going to,
Yeah,
through Zoom, 20 years from now, they'll say, this started 20 years ago. Now it's traditional. So you see how the word traditional has a different meaning depending on the era and the subject matter. So I do support you, and anytime you want me back, you got me. I appreciate what you are doing, and I appreciate the exposure you're giving me.
thank you so much, Sensei. Thank you so much. So nice of you. Sensei, 2 things I would like to share with you. I am the first Pakistani who traveled to Okinawa and traced the original karate and kobudo. And I am the brand ambassador of Okinawan karate and kobudo in Pakistan as well. And I am the first person who introduced my country flag in Okinawa. Before me, no Okinawan knows about the Pakistan country. What is Pakistan? So I am the first one. And also, I am the first Pakistani who started this live conference for only for martial arts, karate. So it's just a little bit effort for martial arts. People are, you know very well about the COVID-19. Everything is stuck in the, everything is finished now. So we and you all are trying to again start it, this thing. Karate practice, karate discussion, my discussion. So the moral of the story which I extract from you, always train under the teacher. Do not believe in stereotyping. Am I right?
Well, your teacher will eventually die someday. Okay? Everybody dies. All my teachers have passed on. The moral of the story is do not forget what you were given. Do not disappreciate what you were given. Value what you were given. And the last one is teach it to somebody else. Keep the legacy continuing. The legacy of my teachers live on. Their pictures are in my dojo. Their katas are in my dojo. I talk about Masanobu Shinjo, Katsuyoshi Kanei, Masanobu Kina, Kaishu Isa, Masayuki Shimabukuro, and Thomas Pelly. 6 men who shaped me. They live on, as I will live on once I'm gone. The legacy continues. Don't forget where you came from.
So nice. Thank you so much. Sensei, I would like to thank again. You are today you are my guest. So thank for your time. Arigato gozaimasu. So any message from you to the world of martial artists?
Absolutely. What the mind can conceive and believe, the mind can achieve. Everybody, get back to your dojos and train. Sweat, sweat, sweat. Only way. Thank you for your
Thank
benevolence,
you so much.
Yoshi, for doing what you're doing, for your vision. Continue on. You have a long history to go. Hopefully someday we can sweat together.
Hi,
Invite
hi,
me to Pakistan someday.
hi. Indeed. So have a good day, Sensei. God bless you.
God bless you too. Right? Domo arigato gozaimasu.
Arigato gozaimasu.
Thank you so much. God bless you and your
Thank you.
family.
Thank you. Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much. Goodbye.